Aoife Burke is 22 and from Scariff in County Clare. She studies fibre arts here at Ballyfermot College of Further Education, where she gets to share her passion for art and design with her fellow students. But even when she's working hard here at college, home is never far from her mind.
I study fibre arts here at Ballyfermot College of Further Education, and even though I love it, it's a brilliant course, there's still always one thing I'm thinking about going home at the weekend for.
Aoife hits the road for the Banner County almost every weekend. She loves coming home to see her family and friends and getting out of the city. But there is one other thing she really loves coming home to. A barge. Yes, this rusty, old barge. Aoife is one of the country's youngest barge owners, having recently bought one at auction from the Heritage Boat Association. The barge that Aoife bought is one of a handful that the Heritage Boat Association put on auction last year. These boats would have been a common sight chugging up and down the canals of Ireland in the 40s and 50s. Because of their hull size, their robustness and durability, they were seen as the perfect way to transport goods and large cargo all over the country. But along came the 50s and transport by road and rail started to take over. More trucks and a better road network meant that 40 Irish Canal boats just like these were retired and sent to a watery grave.
They sunk them to preserve them because they're in fresh water, not salt water or still water. So scientifically, they preserve better in fresh water. So they rust less and they were easier to preserve over long periods of time in fresh water.
So they were being preserved under the water. However, recently it was decided the time had come to resurrect these old workhorses of the Irish waterways, and the sunken barges were put in auction. And believe it or not, there was actually a lot of competition for them. But Aoife was able to get her hands on this beaut.
Well, first of all, you want to get in high-ish bid because it was a silent auction. But as well as that, you need to fulfill a brief on both what you intended to do with the barge, so you're not just going to cut it up and use it for scrap, but also that you had the ability and the knowledge to move it from where it was. So it wasn't just going to be, like my barge was in the Royal Canal, it was sunk in the Royal Canal. If anybody else had bought it, they'd be like, what am I supposed to do with this next? Came in with pumps and rose it up and brought it down weekend after weekend.
So not just anyone can walk in and place a bid on a barge. You need to have some expertise in the area. Luckily for Aoife, she didn't have to look far for that expertise, as barging has been in her family for as long as she can remember.
I grew up on the water, and not just barges, sailing, swimming, kayaking, it was all kind of just what we did. So like all our family holidays, weeks every summer, every weekend, up and down the canal, around the different lakes. Most of my best friends growing up were on the boats.
And for Aoife, owning her own barge is something she's always wanted.
Yeah, when I was little, it was the obvious. It would be like, are you going to have a car when you grow up? Like, of course I'm going to have a barge. But when you grow up, you realise it's not quite that simple. Besides the fact that not everybody can do up a barge, not everybody gets the opportunity to do up a barge. Like, I'm lucky that I've got this. There's a lot of people who wanted them that didn't.
So now that she has her own barge, there's a lot of work ahead to restore it. But luckily for Aoife, her entire family will be giving a helping hand. Her uncle Colm also bought one of the sunken barges and is currently working on repairing its steel hull. The amount of work that goes into restoring these boats is immense and will most likely take Aoife years to complete. It really is a slow labour of love. And like her uncle Colm, seen here working on the steel frame of the boat, Aoife has a clear vision in her head of what she wants her new barge to look like.
4 cabins, 3 double, 1 bunk room, big main saloon. I have it visualised in my head. I studied interior design for a while, so I've got it all sorted. It's the steel part and the actual construction part that I'll have the problem with, not the designing.
At the moment, Aoife's barge is a rusty shell, but a rusty shell with a working engine, the original engine that would have pushed this barge all over the country in the 40s and 50s. The crew of a typical barge consisted of 4 men who slept in bunks in the bow section, and fully loaded, these barges often scraped the bottoms of canals and needed support from tugs to cross lakes. They carried a ballast of stone, sometimes up to 2,000 concrete blocks, and even steel railway lines. Guinness, however, were the main users of the boats, and saw these barges as the perfect way to transport the black stuff up and down the country. According to records from June of 1951, Aoife's boat was used to carry just over 5 tonnes of tobacco, glass and wheat to Limerick, 13 tonnes of manure to Kilgarvan, and a rowboat to Dromineer. So it was kept pretty busy. But today Aoife is taking it on a less strenuous outing on Lough Derg.
I have it exactly in my head, exactly how I want it to be. I want it to be completely original. Like, I want it to look like the exact same. So that's really important to me, restoring it to just as it was. I know that I can make this into something that will just be fantastic. And that's the way I grew up with my parents' barge. Like, I've got a double memory foam bed in my parents' barge.
And that double foam memory bed and her parents' barge isn't far behind, with her dad Jerry at the helm.
Yeah, I mean the kids kind of grew up with it. Aoife was very, very small. I think she was 2 when we got this. So her life memories were, you know, they have different sets. Our kids grew up with different sets of friends. They had their friends in Ennis and going to school, and then they had their boating friends.
Like Aoife will, Jerry Burke custom built his own barge, which even has its very own bar.
The bar is referred to as Bullshit Corner, but badly named. There's a lot of intellectual conversation goes on here.
Okay, we'll take your word for it, Jerry. Back on Aoife's barge, and she's steering it back towards the dock. For Aoife, restoring this barge is not only a great hobby and passion, but it's also a little oasis every week from her busy college life in Dublin.
To me, kind of barging, in comparison to boating, is about comfort and it's about the history. It's the history, and my parents are heavily involved in the Heritage Boat Association. I grew up in that. So I've known old boatmen since I was little, and I've kind of been running around with them and hearing their stories, and I just find it so peaceful, just being out in the water. It's just something I've always loved. This is what I crave coming back to. I just love being out in the water, the lake especially. Like, Lough Derg is my home. It's where I consider partly where I'm from. This is just what I'll always come back to. It's home. It's just what you come back to.
So Aoife sails her barge back into the dock where the work will continue. And hopefully next time we check in with Aoife on Nationwide, her dream barge will be a reality.